but people are so excited because this is Super Bowl Saturday, and we've got about 100 people who showed up early to be with us here on
That's right.
Fox
Those are
Friends.
the Texan cheerleaders that Brian was talking about in the beginning. But in the back of them, the Falcons cheerleaders, they're here for 2 hours, and we're fair and balanced. We've got the Patriots cheerleaders coming up. But look at that right there. Peter's eating some dadgum good wings.
Right.
You know, 1.33 billion wings are consumed over the course of this weekend.
Why not? What does that say about the country? We like fried
like our
food.
wings.
We like to.
Listen, well, he didn't fry them. He baked them, he grilled them, he smoked them, and they are delicious.
Right. Yeah, we did that the first hour. Like everyone wants to wake up with that for breakfast. Yeah, it's going to be great, and we have a huge show amongst our guests coming up over the next few hours. George Foreman's going to be here. Joe Namath is going to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Absolutely. Plus Corey Lewandowski, who has been an advisor to the new president and also was his original campaign manager. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about a Fox News alert. You probably heard that there's a U.S. district judge appointed by George W. Bush. His name is John Robart. Last night, he issued a temporary restraining. Actually, he stopped President Trump's 4-month freeze, his temporary vetting, said, you know what, we're going to have to figure this out. And so now apparently the airlines are being told, okay, let them back on the planes.
Yeah, where they're going, how they're going to implement it, what they're not going to do. It's going to be up to the courts to decide. But right now, it's all on a pause. And here's the White House statement. At the earliest possible time, the Department of Justice intends to file an emergency stay. The president's order is intended, by the way, to protect the homeland. And he has the constitutional authority and responsibility to protect the American people. And he's looking what happened in Europe. He's seeing what happened in France, in Belgium, in Germany, and saying, I don't want that to happen here. That's part of the reason why he was elected. And then yesterday, as he tweeted out, we opened up the show, and Steve, you actually yelled it out. You said there's been an attack outside the Louvre by a guy with a hatchet going after a French soldier. Mm-hmm. How many more of these attacks do you take if you're president before you say, I got to take action? If they could have communicated it more effectively, they wouldn't be in this mess.
Well, Donald Trump said, wake up, America. He was tweeting about that yesterday morning when it happened. And he has his weekly address, and he did talk about his immigration order in this week's address. Listen.
I will never forget that my responsibility is to keep you, the American people, safe and free. That's why last week I signed an executive order to help keep terrorists out of our country. The executive order establishes a process to develop new vetting and mechanisms to ensure those coming into America love and support our people, that they have good intentions. On every single front, we are working to deliver for American workers and American families. You, the law-abiding citizens of this country, are my total priority. Your safety, your jobs, and your wages guide our decisions.
Nobody should be surprised that Donald Trump has done this, and we've been talking about it this past week. This is what he promised when he was running for president of the United States. How many times did you hear him say, we're going to have extreme vetting? This is what he's talking about. So they take this 4-month temporary pause, they figure out what's working and what's not working, so that going forward, you know, people who should be stopped at our border are. But what the left is trying to do with these orders and all the stuff you see in the mainstream media is they're trying to convince everybody that the U.S. Constitution essentially gives everybody on earth, non-American citizens, the right to come into this country. And that simply is not what the founders intended.
So the president's saying he wants to reverse this. This federal judge is saying that now people can fly from those 7 countries here to the U.S. But what happens next? Is there someone that can reverse this?
Well, the ban is on a pause, and it's up to them to file a formal stay and then get it to another judge to feel differently. And in Boston, the administration got some wind at their back, got it reaffirmed.
They won.
But it was a Seattle judge that said, who reported by George W. Bush, that said, no, this is unconstitutional. They said it significantly harms residents and effectively mandates discrimination.
So if it goes to the Supreme Court, what happens?
That would take years. What the administration is going to do is they're going to seek some immediate, temporary, probably legal remedy through the courts, but ultimately all the president of the United States has to do is another executive order. Just make it a little more focused, a little more targeted. Next thing you know, got a new order. So stay tuned.
Right.
I'm feeling even though Donald Trump is down at his resort in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, he's working on this right now. We'll talk to Corey Lewandowski within an hour, find out what they're doing behind the scenes.
And we're probably going to get a tweet soon, even though it's a Saturday.
I did check this morning to see if he tweeted about it before
Right.
our show. He had not at that point, but we'll see.
He will not get up when we get up. We don't know what it is. Meanwhile, let's talk about paying for the wall in Mexico. We know that General Kelly told Catherine Herridge this week he's going to start as early as March and be done in 2 years, and significantly bolstering up the wall when needed on the southern border. And he also talked about a layered operation, technology, fencing, a wall, everything necessary to secure the border. That's why I don't understand what we're about to hear from John McCain. It's almost like an intentional way to diss the president.
Yeah, he's saying it won't work. He's not in favor of it. Listen to what he said.
If you only build a wall, only a quote, a wall, without using technology, individuals, drones, observation, etc., you're not going to secure the border.
Mm-hmm. And he's obviously talking about having Mexico pay for it. Do you think that's actually a viable option?
No.
Why do you say that?
Because it's not a viable option.
And he probably says it's not a viable option because it's something we've never done before. I mean, America is always having an open border with Mexico, so why would we do that? We haven't done it in the past. But this, once again, is what Donald Trump campaigned on. And a plurality of people in the United States said, okay, that's the plan. We want a wall, and we want Mexico to pay for it. And we had Sid Miller on. He's the Texas Agriculture Commissioner just about an hour ago here on our set in Houston. And he said there are a whole bunch of ways that Mexico could wind up paying for it.
Ever since Donald Trump got into the race, they saying he can't be successful, he can't do this. He's delivered on every campaign promise so far. And this is another deal that he will fulfill. And Mexico is not going to write us an $18 billion check. McCain is right on that. But they will reimburse. We're going to build the wall, get reimbursed from Mexico. There's any number of ways. For one, we can withhold funding that we send to Mexico. We can do a surcharge on money orders going to Mexico that was earned up here.
Yep.
We can do a value-added tax on imports at the border. So they really won't have a choice, in the matter. We will collect enough funds to pay for the border wall.
He was talking about the money orders. There's so many people that live here in the United States that send money back home to their family members down in Mexico. So you could charge them more for that through the money order system, or tax imports, exports, both that come in and out of our country.
But when you do those taxes, usually there's a response. I think you're more apt to look at the Homeland Security grants that we give them to secure their southern border,
don't give them as
so
much.
They don't mess up our southern border. Yeah.
So, you know what? If John McCain's watching right now, and I know that he's a big barbecuer, so he could be watching our segments with the
How do you know that?
He's got 8 grills at his house down in Arizona.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding. So anyway.
How do you know that?
It was in People magazine. So John McCain, I bet you $1 if you're watching. I bet 2 years from now, the wall is either done or under construction, and Mexico is paying for part of it, or at least all of it. Going forward, there's going to be some sort of mechanism.
I heard from people who did support Trump right after the election. I just want him to really do what he says he's going to do. Yeah. That's what everyone was saying right after the election. And now it's happening. So I do agree with you.
Ainsley, John McCain's going to be happy about 2 things. Number one, Donald Trump met with Ukrainian leaders yesterday and said, listen, I'm not going to lift the sanctions on Russia right away. He's also going to be happy with the sanctions that Iran got because he was tired of seeing Iran run right over us for the last 8 years. And right away, President Trump made it clear that missile test you have, there's going to be ramifications, and it came down yesterday. So those are 2 things in which makes John McCain and maybe Meghan McCain happy.
I bet that made him happy.
Yes.
She got a job at Fox.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So as it turns out, the stuff that President Trump says he's going to do, he actually follows through on. How refreshing. All right, it's about 10 minutes after 7 o'clock in New York, 10 minutes after 6 here in Houston. It's time for some news headlines with Heather.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to all of you. Hope you're off to a great Saturday. The most dangerous Mexican drug lord, who's known for escaping from prison, says his New York jail cell